Okay, we will call to order the June 6th, 2024. I had to look down for a minute. I thought it was June 7th. Meeting of the Historic District Commission for the city of Saugatuck. We will start with roll call. Sarah, would you help us with that?
Yes. Straker.
Here.
Patterson.
Here.
Canerza.
Here.
Donahue.
Here.
Gardner.
Here.
Godfrey.
Here.
We have a quorum and a full family. Thank you. Are there any agenda changes, additions, or deletions?
None from staff, Mr. Chair.
We have two sets of minutes to approve, one for the regular meeting held May 2nd of this year, and one for the special meeting held on May 7th. Very robust group of meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read those? And if so, are there any questions or could I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the May 2nd.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Okay. And then what about the special meeting held on May 7th?
Move that we approve the minutes from May 7th as well.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Okay. Thank you. Do we have any public comments on the agenda items for tonight?
Oh, shoot. Yes.
You're there. Hi, Nancy.
Oh, hi, you heard me. I'm like, how do I raise my hand? Hi, Nancy Kimball. I live at 550 Spear Street in Saugatuck City. And I'm speaking today in support of agenda item 7B, Lake Street, Blue Star Highway intersection, shift the pallet sign 5 feet, and installation of traffic and pedestrian signals. I'm a member of the Saugatuck PPW committee, as well as a board member for Friends of the Blue Star Trail. So I'm very familiar with this subject. The agenda item includes two components: movement of the pallet sign to accommodate the trail and installation of a traffic signal at the intersection. The PPW reviewed and refined these recommendations at 3 of our meetings. Our priorities for the project were twofold. The first, to minimize the impact to the pallet sign, and second, to ensure safe passage for cyclists and pedestrians as they cross Lake Street while using the new trail. The city's been working with C2AE, the engineering firm selected to design the actual trail, and the recommendations included in your packet are the result of the numerous discussions that we've had with them. Regarding changes to the pallet sign, the committee recognized that this sign not only welcomes people to our city. This iconic artist pallet is emblematic of our city's artistic culture. And accordingly, no changes are recommended to the sign itself. It is simply being shifted 4.8 feet further away from Blue Star Highway. We are recommending that we take this opportunity to improve the landscaping. Regarding the second priority, safe passage across Lake Street, the committee is recommending installation of a traffic signal at Lake and Blue Star. 2 traffic studies have been conducted in recent years, and both concluded that the intersection warrants a signal. And they both also acknowledge this would be of greater importance once a trail is constructed. So I just urge you tonight to support the pallet sign modification and the signal installation in conjunction with trail construction, which will occur in 2025. And this will ensure minimal impact to the pallet sign while improving safety at this busy intersection for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. That concludes public comments. Is there any unfinished business? If not, let's go right into new business. The first is the aforementioned Lake Street Blue Star Highway intersection shift of the pallet sign, etc. Is there anything, Ryan, you'd like to tee up that's not in our packet?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think Ms. Kimball actually teed it up quite well. And I certainly trust that you've read your materials, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. We also have Jared Secor here with C2AE, the engineering firm, that happy to answer any questions that you have.
Before we send it around the table, can I just ask a clarifying question? We don't, it's in our guidelines that landscape is not part of our gig. But how should we approach the traffic and pedestrian signals and the and the pathway extension. Should we be thinking about that, or is this about the sign?
I think so. It's within the, the city's historic district. And as we've kind of touched on before, the historic district ordinance is quite broad in that it covers open spaces, public spaces, and from my perspective, this kind of falls under that purview. So I would ask that you review, all the elements.
Thank you.
Yep.
Cool. Let's go around the table. Us, want to start
Good
your
evening,
way?
everybody. Yeah, thanks, Chairman Straker. I do have a question about the inclusion of the traffic lights in the historic district approval process. That is ultimately a city council decision to make about what the appropriate, along with engineering consultants, which we have here. There's nothing historic about traffic lights or pedestrian signals. So I am comfortable with the recommendation on the pallet sign move to accommodate the trail. I do not think it's within the purview of the Historic District Commission to make a decision or recommendation on traffic lights.
Thank you. Laura?
Just want to clarify, and thank you, Nancy, for your comments. The pallet sign is being moved 5 feet back. It doesn't tell me the direction that the pallet sign is being moved. Is it going backwards,
So
5 feet away from Blue Star?
yeah, so we'll pull up, Sarah, if you can pull up the packet here and
I think it's sort of a 45-degree angle is the way I interpret it.
yeah, yep. So it's page 27.
Okay, so if I missed that, I apologize.
It's okay. Yep.
I missed it too. I was looking. for a
It's
question.
kind of really the numbers are small and so yeah, actually you zoom in right there. Yeah,
Okay,
keep zooming. I know. So there we go. There you go. Yep. So
that's good to have pulled.
there you go. Yep.
Thank you.
So what it's kind of the the one line is showing you kind of the edge of where the pallet sign is at currently, and then the arrow is showing you the shift. 4.8 feet. So it's a little
Back in.
up here, actually. Microphone, so it tries to pick me up a little bit. So this kind of light gray outline is actually where the pallet sign is currently. So it's shifting from here 4.8 feet. So that's what it's ultimately showing you there.
That's
So,
great.
Yep. And it's gonna be about 5 feet off of the actual path itself.
That's very helpful. Thank you for that diagram. So it's a very minimal movement. It appears. So I have no issue with this. It sounds as if it's a real plus to support other activities there. Is there any sense of timing on this?
There is, getting these final approvals is a piece of getting the overall trail plans to the folks at the state to kind of sign off. We have also, grant deadlines that we essentially have to hit as far as going out for bids and starting construction, frankly, next year to keep the grant funds that we've been successful in obtaining. Yep.
That's great. Well, I think certainly there's a lot of discussion that this is probably one of the most prominent historic signs. And I certainly support the effort and have no further questions.
Thank you. Will?
I don't have a question. I was thrilled that we're keeping everything with the sign and actually I know this is in our purview, but I'm thrilled that it's going to be a traffic light there because the summers are terrible.
Thank you. Keith?
The supports, the stanchions, you're putting the whole thing up and moving it? Those stay the same or are those being replaced?
That the sign are on,
Mhm.
all of the infrastructures, it will remain the same.
Okay,
Yep.
and then how about the footprint that's used for the banners that are there temporarily? Is that the same size and specification? We got a slot where you stick the,
Yes. Yep.
sign-based signs.
Same dimensions, and I think maybe we didn't include that particular, there was a previous rendering that they had kind
Okay.
of put together showing that, yep, signage could still,
And
be
then with
placed.
the, have they taken into consideration the growth of the stuff? It looks like you have, that someday the sign's not going to be occluded by things that are planted below.
Right, yeah, the Parks and Public Works Committee had quite a bit of discussion about the landscape materials. We wanted more, natural materials to the area and certainly kind of wanted to strike
Okay.
the right balance. Yep.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, John.
The sign part is clear to me. The traffic signal part is not. And all of this traffic study information that's included in the packet
Mhm.
isn't clear to me why that's included and why we would look at that.
So, yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to touch on that. So if you go to your local historic district ordinance, defines a resource, very broadly. So, says one or more publicly or privately owned historic or non-historic buildings, structures, which certainly, the pallet sign is a structure. Certainly, traffic poles would be considered a structure. So structures, sites, objects, features, I mean, certainly these are objects, features, or open spaces located within a historic district. So this is placing a structure, objects, sites, there's features within your historic district boundaries. So, it's not that you get the ultimate authority in the sense of being the only one to decide if a traffic signal is installed here, but you are a piece of the approval process. So certainly, if the city council ultimately determines that they don't want to place a traffic signal at this intersection, just because you've approved it tonight doesn't mean that it ultimately, gets approved by the city council in the end and approving, dollars for it. But it can't go forward if the Historic District Commission says ultimately that it doesn't meet the historic district guidelines in some way. And so, from my staff perspective, I think there's safety considerations here and why the city is making the request to have, the traffic signal installed. So that's why I think, that's why that material is
Okay,
included in your
that,
packet.
that
Yep.
helps, but we're not expected to analyze traffic flow, crashes, all the data that's in there.
Correct.
These poles in the rendering are shown in a bronze color that kind of goes with the sign. Is that intentional? Am I misreading that? Do we weigh in on that? Or is it just the idea of traffic?
I think I
Agreed.
Yeah, if you have particular comments about color or statics or something along those lines that you think are relevant here, I mean, we welcome that. I've kind of viewed it as being more of a black color is kind of what we've been aiming for.
This one looks
Okay.
23. Anyway, I didn't know if that was, these are simple and the sign I think is really clear. It did mention stacked stone and there are no examples of what that is, but as Tim said, landscaping isn't part of our thing. I wondered what it was though.
I thought the stack stone was around the landscaping.
It is,
Okay.
but they didn't show what it
Oh,
is.
okay.
And often in our other ones, people will show
Oh,
the
okay.
materials they're using, but not always for landscaping. So I'm sure it'll be similar to what's there.
Right.
So with all that, I don't have any other questions. I just wanted clarity on our responsibility as far as the safety aspect of the placement of things, because I can't weigh in on that. I'm sure these have obviously been a lot of studies done on this.
Can I just clarify? Because this came up in the special meeting. I think there's a huge difference between historic district ordinance that are part of zoning and planning versus our guidelines, which is what we use. So I'm hard pressed to find anything in our guidelines other than mass and scale and streetscape and et cetera, that would take us down any path ever of traffic lights on Blue Star or a sidewalk pedestrian thing. So that's what takes it to me as our motion needs to just either approve as submitted or clarify that that we're approving the sign against our guidelines with the rest of it as a ride-along approval.
So I think there's two layers here, and I think we've, touched on this during, the playground review. Certainly there's, your ordinance refers to your specific guidelines that
Right.
speak to certain things. And then, yes, there's situations when your guidelines don't speak to certain things, but the ordinance still requires that you look at other factors outside of the guidelines that would include, the historical or architectural significance of the resource and its relationship to the historic value of the surrounding area, compatibility, the exterior, the feature and space around it, impact of the structure and space around it as it relates to the village and rural character and other factors the commission considers pertinent. So that's, I think, what Dave Jurasa kind of evaluated for you and noting that, hey, there's not specific on point guidelines, but there's general ordinance requirements that you still have to kind of take into consideration.
Like safety and accessibility, we're talking about comparing it to the park.
If that's another factor.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
another,
Yep.
that's another
Yep.
example of another factor.
Yep.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
Could I still make comment, please? Thank you. I think we should just be focused on the historical asset here, and that's the sign. I'm comfortable with the sign movement to accommodate this construction of the path. I'm not comfortable with the commission taking a position on the installation of the traffic lights, which are going to end up being whatever the city deems to be appropriate. And this is a concept for the lights. This is not the final decision. So this has not been completely decided on. So the point where I'm going on this is that generally our guidelines don't give us purview over this. So my position would be, you know, even the construction of the multimodal pathway extension, in my mind, both of those items are outside of our purview. The sign, yes. The other items, no.
Yeah.
And I just question why they're there, because I don't see why this is even the historic district. And it's not a criticism against the commission at all. It's just, I don't see why this is.
So I guess in how a resource is defined, I guess from a staff perspective, I guess I would need to understand more about why you think that the Historic District Commission ordinance doesn't apply to those features.
I just don't think these are even necessary for our approval this evening. It's the sign movement.
But they're elements of the entire project. They're within the historic district boundaries. They're objects, they're features, they're structures within the historic district. It's
So-
similar to, you know, like the city, for example, like even, you know, trash receptacle placement and recycling receptacles that we brought to the commission. Because hey, it's something new, a new object within the district. It's, you know, whether or not they're actually purchased and bought is kind of a staff and certainly a council decision at some point, but you still have to view it through the lens of your guidelines and your ordinance requirements and still sign off. Again, it's not that you get the ultimate say or that it, you know, may not, you know, be constructed in the end, but your approval is necessary to construct it, just from a staff perspective.
The lights? I don't think it is.
I think it
disagree.
absolutely is,
I
yeah.
disagree. So I just don't see how this comes in the purview of the commission. And also just thinking about what the public may perceive on something like this is that that would be something the community, I don't think would understand. Why is the commission even considering the installation of the traffic lights? Isn't it ultimately council? So that's just, I'm not putting the two together here. So
we don't have to do this motion exactly as written. I think there's one change that could put our energy towards the sign, but acknowledge the rest of the project. So we could make a motion to approve shifting the city gateway sign by blah, 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 to support the installation of blah, blah, blah. And that acknowledges that that is in there, that we're doing, that is happening because of this.
Mr. Chair, I think you need to make a decision to approve this. That's the staff recommendation. I think unless the commission can articulate for me in what, or at least articulate in what way, if you're not going to approve it, why you believe that it's not considered a resource and doesn't fall within the purview of the historic district. Because I don't want to be in a situation later where somebody challenges the city and says that this light was in the historic district. This historic district commission did not approve, and it's considered a resource. It's within the historic district boundaries. It's a structure, it's an object, it's a feature and an open space. I don't want to be in that position either. I think it absolutely falls within your ordinance and is something that,
but my argument remains, I'm sorry.
A good example is the 5G tower that we went through.
Yeah.
This is no
That's a
different
great
than that.
example.
I think that's
And, I'm just, if that timer was in front of the sign, we would have had an issue with it. So that means we do have some level of quasi authority on its location.
Yeah, that cell tower is a
Right.
structure,
Yeah.
and we looked at mass and scale and other things that we look at.
Streetscape.
Streetscape.
Yeah, if that was in front or if it's something that was really messed
Yeah,
up there, we'd say that's a problem.
Again, I would emphasize that this is a concept. This is not the final.
the city, and at that point, I mean, the city council approved the plans contingent upon the rendering that Fleece and Vandenbrink provided. The plans that are in your packet show you where the location of the signals are going to be and If you want to see like spec sheets in the end or something like that related to the final product, and make a condition on that similar to where you would another, project, like, hey, we want to see the final spec sheet, that could be something that certainly you could do.
That's not the point I'm making.
I'm not understand, okay, help me
I
understand.
just don't see where the way that this is written, the installation of traffic and pedestrian signals and construction of a multimodal pathway extension is within our purview. And as you explained, the ordinance is very general, the broad scope. So I would say let's narrow it to make sure we're within scope, and that's the approval of moving the sign 4.8 feet to accommodate. Similar to what Chairman Straker is. Because I don't know this is going to be the final plan for the traffic lights. There are discussions about this. This has not been decided by council. It's a concept.
So the city council approved moving forward with a plan that is consistent with the rendering that's in the packet. That's exactly what we're bringing to you today to approve. If that plan changes, then we will have to return to the Historic District Commission, but we're asking for your approval of the rendering that's in here related to these traffic signals and the placement that's on these plans, which are, that's rendering is what the city council approved moving forward with, and what we're basing, or what these are the plans that we're moving forward with. Now, ultimately, yes, Mr. Gardner is correct that once plans are specs as far as, going out for bids, and we come back to city council with bids and they're like, we actually don't like, that signal. We want to swap it out with something else, or, it's too costly. We have to back it off and do something different there. Then absolutely, the council can say no at that point, change the plans. And if they do, then we will certainly, return to the Historic District Commission if there's a deviation from the approved plans.
I don't know that. Trying to get it out of my head. I think the cell tower thing is a great example of where things like this need to be part of our purview because of where it impacts the streetscape. So I agree that I get that it's an ordinance and that's why it's in there. And I think it does no harm as being part of the motion. I also get that it's Blue Star Highway. Like if somebody came back and said, and if the historic district part of that by the sign that you wanted to put a lighted archway across Blue Star that had dual purpose as a traffic signal, yes, we would have a point of view on that. You're not asking that. This is pretty straightforward infrastructure. So that's where I feel like it does no harm. But that other example is where I think why it's in here, if I'm hearing you correct, because we would have a say if somebody wanted to do like Broadway lights around this thing, inclusive of a traffic signal, right?
Yeah, and I think it's similar to this traffic signal that's out here at the intersection outside of City Hall here. If we were doing some dramatically different structures like this, that might, the commission might have a concern. It happens to be at a different intersection, but it's a signal nonetheless that would be within your purview to review.
Okay. I think we're probably, to this dialogue, I think we're probably left with making a motion, either what's listed here, and agreeing or disagreeing with it, or adjusting it in discussion.
So can I ask a question? So if we shifted to your point and went to accommodate the new traffic signals, you're saying that would not say that we're approving it, basically, right?
I don't think that would be clear that you've approved it.
You want clarity,
You
we're
want
looking for clarity
I
that
know.
we're saying it's okay to install traffic signals.
Yeah, I want to think about the reverse side of this. Because we can say that we don't have purview over that. I get what you're saying is kind of to the letter of the law, we do, and we have to say that. On the flip side of it, we get upset when we're not included in something that could change the streetscape. And so we can't have it both ways.
Right.
So that's why, to me, it's like no harm that it's in here. I see your point. Like, I don't think we would ever overrule a utility that council says after many studies is the right thing to do. I don't think we would do that in something that's so utility based.
And can I just add one thing to that? I've seen, and I don't know, can't think of an example, but structures that go up with, that have legs and go all the way across
Hmm.
that are metal and then have the traffic signal on it. If that were in this picture, I would say, hey, no, let's look at that differently. These aren't that. They're not like a bridge structure. They're not attached to anything. They're separate, safety oriented, simple. And that's not,
I guess the only thing, a little bit to Russ's point is I don't even want to evaluate,
no.
like what you're suggesting it could have been for a reason that we have no knowledge about because we're not traffic and safety experts.
But we would have a different set of questions if it looked
Well,
much
sure,
different than this.
if there's two identical arms, one's green and has hoo-ha on it and one's brown and is straightforward, we may have a point of view of what matches the streetscape. But we would have no perspective of, I wish that went further this way from a safety standpoint, I guess is my interpretation. That's work that's different than our pay grade.
The debate has been extremely helpful and I understand all perspectives. I just think it's great that we're included in thinking about all of these components. It is probably the most prominent intersection in the city. And to be able to consider this, I think is great. And I would support the motion as it stands, given the debate and the discussion that I've just heard and recognizing our colleagues' concerns. I still think this is probably the way to go as Ryan instructs. It does keep us in a good position in the sequence of events. It seems like a good place to start.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion. I move to approve the shifting of the city gateway sign 4.8 feet, landscaping of the surrounding area, installation of new traffic signals and new pedestal mounted signal displays, and extend the pathway at the intersection of Lake Street and Blue Star Highway in accordance with the plans and details submitted within the application materials.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Appreciate it.
Good conversation.
Okay.
Okay, go to the second item, 120 Mary Street. We have, hello. Hello. Welcome back.
Hi, my name's Michael Wachter. And the scope of the project is to renovate the single family dwelling inside the property in order to modify the use in conjunction with the way put in immediately next door to the residents. Changes made since our last presentation here include having the building remain basically as is, so the brick will remain unchanged. Most of the windows remain unchanged. The entryway at the front of the building will remain, although we are asking to remove the added wrought iron. It's not really wrought iron. The iron structure that's holding up the porch roof right now, replacing it with columns that match closely the character of the neighborhood. Additionally, we would like to add shutters to the exterior of the building in certain locations. At the rear of the building, we are modifying the rear elevation to accommodate the terrace and landscaping in the back of the home. And the existing garage,
Yeah, I think it's that the porch that you described should be up there, because not everybody has a back.
Yeah, I looked at it earlier. Now it's just not moving.
We go to
Yeah, there we go.
leave it.
Changes it on.
Yeah, so the porch that's there now, you see in drawing number 1. Will remain, although there's a wire, I'm sure you're familiar with it, it's a broad iron support structure underneath that was obviously added at some point after the building was erected.
Mike, I'm sorry, can you move the mic a little bit closer to, yeah, 'cause we are recording.
There
Thank
you
you.
go.
Sorry
How's
about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you'd see the hatched areas or the areas that we're considering working on. In elevation number 2, we are modifying the windows and the brickwork at the back of the building to accommodate a new masonry fireplace. In drawing 1, you can see the existing door, the existing door frame. There is no door, there's a screen door. So we're going to create a millwork door to fill that opening. In drawing number 3, that's the rear of the building. We want to modify the existing windows to be French doors that will let out onto a terrace. And in drawing 4, in the north elevation, we're modifying the windows at the back end of the building and the entry in the back end, and also the window in the bathroom. If we want to go to the I think A 2.0, this is the demo sheet. Yeah, and then do you want me to go, do you want to talk about the elevations or the plans, or have you already kind of reviewed some of these?
Elevation's good.
The elevation's
Yeah,
good. Let's do it
that's a
right
good
there.
start.
Yeah, okay. So you saw the existing. So here's the proposed. Again, the front of the building, exactly the same. We are proposing to replace the windows on the second floor primarily for energy efficiency and for operation. They currently are not operable and in disrepair. The columns that we're adding at the front are an aesthetic addition. You can see the shutters being added to most of the windows, and the windows that have the four-sided diamond in them are indicating new windows in those openings.
And sorry, just while you're on this elevation,
Mhm.
the chimney is new, correct?
The chimney is new, correct? And the windows that flank it. This is in the rear of the building on the south side. The porch on the side of the building and the porch at the front remain essentially unchanged.
Anything else?
The garage, if we scroll down just a hair, has a set of folding doors that face the street, and those would be rehabilitated but unused. So they would be a facade, a feature. The other elevations would be, we would have new windows and new access to the deck that would be part of the pool and spa structure. That's it.
Yeah, go first.
Yeah, let me just tee something up because I want to acknowledge that I met with the owner at the owner's request.
Shay.
Yes. Just to listen to after your last meeting, just to listen to what their proposed intent was and give feedback to what I thought the commission would be looking for.
Mhm.
A lot of which has been addressed with your presentation, but I wanted to acknowledge that I did have that
Good, thank
conversation
you.
with them. A couple of things that I hit on. Obviously, the brick is important in a contributing structure and couldn't be painted or sided over. That I felt pretty strongly that that was clear in our guidelines. We talked about the original windows being in good condition. We pointed out where there were new windows that were less of a concern. We talked about shutters and it's addressed here. We talked about the supports. And in general, we talked about making sure that we weren't, my words, that commissions don't endorse gussying up a pretty modest structure so that, it's honest to what it is and, improving, but not making it something it's not. And it was a really great dialogue. So that just wanted to let everyone know that that took place.
Okay. Yeah, I asked to go first. Because when I ran through the the Interior's, the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation. I just wanted to cover the broad items, and I know we're gonna.
May I
cherry pick-
interrupt real quick?
Pardon?
Do you use the guidelines or the standards?
It starts with the guidelines for rehabilitation, and then we wrote our standards with
Okay.
reflecting and honoring those guidelines. Correct?
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Okay.
Okay. But yeah, I just wanted to cover the broad ones because I think we're gonna have to hold the changes up to those standards and decide whether or not, we're gonna support that. First one is recognize appropriate use. Properties shall be used for historic purpose or shall be placed in a new use that requires minimal change to the defining characteristics of the building and its site and environment. That's one. The second one is retain historic character. Historic character of a property shall be retained and preserved. The removal of historic materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property shall be avoided. Third one is avoid conjecture. Each property shall be recognized as physical record of its time, place, and use. That's significant. Changes that recreate a false sense of historical development, such as adding conjectural feature or architectural elements from other historic buildings, shall not be undertaken. Number four, maintain significant alterations. Most properties change over time. Those changes have acquired historic significance in their own right and shall be retained and preserved. And then the last one is make alterations reversible. New additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment shall be unimpaired. So that's the framework that we need to do to review each of these before we get into the significant, changes that have happened here. So that's.
It's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for
I
reading
think those are important elements that we need to consider.
Is there, while we're on you, is there anything you want
Yeah,
to ask about or?
No, other than the couple that don't meet that guideline for me is the shutters. That creates a false sense of history. The chimney makes the change irreversible. There's a series of doors and window changes, including bricking over existing, I believe, and that's what we need to clarify. And then the secondary structures, the entire, that one side that faces the Wickwood is something that we need to talk through. But all of those are in conflict with our guidelines. And there's more, but I just, I thought, rather than hog the airtime, pass it on.
Okay. I'm sure we'll
Okay.
poke at each one of those as we
Sure.
go around the table. I'll continue this way. John, do you have any?
Well, that's helpful, Keith. There's a lot of elements here.
Mhm.
So it could be a little painstaking, but should we take each element and run it through that screen?
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We should also look at the specific references of our guidelines that are in the application.
Yes. So,
And I do have those all tied to our specific guidelines. So if we need to tie them in by, Roman numeral 1 on page 10, we can do that too. That's just the finding of fact, right?
so this property in all its simplicity and all its changes over the years has landed in a state that is historically significant. And to start to unwind it gets really, really tricky.
I agree.
So I'll just start because I think this is going to have to go around a couple times, but the metal framework around the porch is one example, probably in one of its 1940s remodels, who knows? But the round columns that are proposed are a far cry from that.
There's
Um,
multiple options in the,
There's multiple options, but those are shown, it's shown with the round and I wanted to ask you that.
It's shown with the round.
Shown with the round and that's the one highlighted. I do see.
Because
this-
those are the same, just saying those are the ones that are used on the Wickwood.
Right, and that's part of one of the things you just said. It should have no influence from something else, right? Isn't
Yeah.
that paraphrasing? But I think one of those was related to that. I don't think round columns work on this simple structure. I don't think this structure, I don't think that works. It has complete simplicity, and that's more Roman, like a Roman influence, or there are square tape, non-tapered options in the packet. And something like that would seem more fitting to me. One example, I have a little issue with the shutters as well. They don't, I love, the fact that they're going to the level of detail with the hardware for the shutters. But they don't really look like they could close over a window.
Their operation.
They're operational, but if you shut them, given the diagram here, you're only shutting it over half of a window. You're not shutting it.
In the case where there's two double hungs, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But they also are typically bifold. So they would bifold back, and then as they fold out, they would, unfold again. So
Okay,
they would cover
I
the
missed
entire
that. They're
window.
bifold? Okay,
Well, that's the way it's typically done, but
okay. The brick on the proposed new chimney, how is that going to match? I see that it's shown as brick. Is that, how does that relate to the old brick?
having done historic renovations for 3 decades, I've been very well versed in how to match brick
Match brick?
masonry.
You just
Yeah.
find it from a salvage yard or something, or?
There are ways, there are
Ways
many
to do
ways
it?
to do it. Yeah. This brick is very common.
Okay,
So,
those are my top 3 that stand out for me. And I'm not saying either way, like the chimney was mentioned by Keith. Yeah, I'm not saying that I have a problem with that. I do have a little bit of a problem. I do have a problem with the columns, and I question the shutters on this simple structure. And the window muntins, they're different everywhere. There's I'm not sure how much of that carries over, but they're,
it's existing. There are 2 muntins on the bottom, the top sash of the bottom windows, and there's 1 muntin on the top sash of the upper story windows. It's that way right now.
and that's a narrower window.
It's not, sorry to jump in, it's not 2/1 currently.
It's not.
No, there's 1/1.
Where's the,
In the newer windows on the second floor, on the front of the structure, because I just went by today to double check, they're 1/1.
Yeah, that would be the original, the original structure. You can see the original box structure with the peak, and that window there looked like the only remaining that right up on the second floor that I could see.
No, the windows upstairs are all replacement windows.
On the end as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
so on the front
I was just thinking
elevation,
size.
yeah, on the front elevation,
Yeah.
the gang of 3 double hungs are 1/1 and they're replacement. I don't know if they're vinyl, but they look like vinyl from the street. And then the ones on each side of that gable are as well.
Okay.
There's 2 casement windows to the left of the chimney that are replacement, and it looks like you're not replacing those or asking to. And then on the opposite side of the house at the bottom in the proposed right there, yep, where the cursor is, that window and the little gable, that little gable is an addition. The brick doesn't match exactly, and that's a replacement window as well. That's the one I think you're asking to make a larger opening.
yes, to match the adjacent windows in the building?
Um,
Because it's an awning window right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of an isolated case.
do you guys care if I keep going? Only just because I was over there. I don't want to jump ahead of you, but it might be relevant for the, I'd be curious what you're doing with the original front door that's inside that screen door that you're going to put a new front door on.
We could use that in the opening, certainly could.
That was kind of where I was going.
Yeah.
Because it's a really pretty door.
It
and
is.
It's in
Yeah.
keeping. This might go to your standards conversation,
Mhm.
intersection to guidelines conversation. Historically, in our commission approvals, and just in my general past, there's a difference between the front elevation, the street facing elevation versus the side or the back. So a good example of that for me is, and I told the applicant this when I was over there, because they asked to do something different with the doors on the garage. And I said, that to me is a divining feature. That's one person's point of view. Outbuildings are really sweet and a contributing factor to this house and the streetscape. So if you left that and just made it a dummy front, what you do on the side that you don't see from the street, even though you're altering the original structure, that could be a dialogue. I didn't say, I said it could be a dialogue. So that's one opinion there. And I think that same thing sort of goes for the back of the house, in opening that up. Like, no one from the street sees it. It can't be undone back to the way it was, but it's on the back. And usually, like if we were evaluating new construction on a contributing structure, we would allow something to happen on the back where it would attach. And to me, that's what makes that kind of okay. And the only thing I don't totally agree with, and this might be easier for you, is I don't think you should match that chimney. That's a false sense of history. The chimney is new. I think there's some compatible brick that says that's a different thing. I think there's different ways to do that. I don't want to prescribe what those are. It could be a different brick. It could be new brick that's painted, but making it match the house, I think, is a false sense of history.
Well, in the same way that somebody added that toilet room that has the awning window and they went to huge pains to match the masonry.
But didn't quite fit.
Didn't quite, yeah.
Didn't quite get it, but you can also fix that.
And then I guess my last thing, and then I'll stop hogging it. I'm not a fan of the columns, definitely not to match the Wickwood, but to find something that feels a little more substantial now that you're making the house feel substantial. In its simplest form, I could get around that if they're simple and unadorned and not embellished, because then it's just utilitarian support, not designed to pull your eye to be something that is fussier than it needs to be. And this house needs to continue to stand on its own. I get that you're trying to make a connective thread to the Wickwood, but I think you could squint and do that with the changes you're doing and still let the house have its original intent and personality. That the shutters don't bother me. I want them to be wood and I want them to look like they're original. And I don't want them on a gang of double hungs. I agree that that to me is a super ranch house suburban application of a shutter. But I think on the second floor on a single double hung, or where you only have one shutter that could cover the whole window, I'm okay with that.
What about what he said? I've never heard of those that bifold.
Yeah, totally. But I mean, it would never be on this style of a house remodeled, like an 1868 house remodeled in the 1940s. That's like Judson Heath would do something like that in my mind. Like I may not be pulling random examples, but that feels a little over fussy to get there. But if you want to nod to shutters, I think there's a way to do shutters on some windows that still ties it to the Wickwood. And I'm guessing that's what you're trying to do with the shutters.
Yes.
So sorry, guys, I didn't mean to hoard that.
Sounds helpful.
And you mentioned the columns and in the packet, there is a non-tapered square in many sizes that fits the description of what you said, substantial.
And I mean, that's fine. The
Yeah.
columns are not key to any of this design. The look of the iron support of that front porch covering is, endemic to that mid-century
Mhm.
architecture, which is fantastic. But, how many styles can you stack up in one,
Right,
in one building?
we get it.
Well, I think that, and that's the cleanest way to take it away from mid-century and harmonize the entire,
Yeah, so we can go to a square column. I think that'd be fantastic. So.
well,
Besides what's already been talked about, there was a mention about the non-brick areas, the siding. Was it talked about what the siding is going to be?
It's going to be what it is right
It's the
now.
same, okay.
We're not changing. We're not intending to.
Okay, okay. That's all. I think I
Yeah.
need.
Thank you. Laura?
Great discussions. The garage doors, I mean, I think those look really great.
They do.
And so, you're just taking them off and kind of putting a similar look on, or?
No, we're going to take those doors and use the existing materials, refurbish them completely,
Yeah.
and then reattach them in a niche opening that resembles exactly what's there now.
That's great. Yeah, I wanted to confirm that because I think that's a terrific look.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues' assessments here. I actually like that wrought iron. I think it adds a really interesting look to that house, but if it's an aesthetic that you've obviously chosen to do away with, then looks like there's some other options for you. The shutters, I know you're trying to tie to the Wickwood. You can see it in the picture that it lines. I'm not so sure. I would agree with that. I don't support that, but understand where you're going with it. So sounds like there's some consideration to that, but you've decided to proceed with the shutters.
You know, if the commission feels that very strongly about the shutters, we can reconsider whether they're located on all the windows or just the frame portion of the houses, which is where you'd expect to see them. And I'm sure that's where they were when the house was originally built.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Russ?
Hey, good evening. Thank you for being here. Where I thought this was going to be an easy, straightforward discussion, it's turned into a bit more of a, born and raised in this town, walked past this house my entire life. It's the Beckon House.
Yeah.
It's a very simple abode for a family of how many kids? 6 kids, I think. I don't remember the exact number of kids. I can see Phil nodding his head back there. It's a very simple house, very simple garage, which actually hasn't, I don't think, been used for a number of years. But so I want to, thank Commissioner Patterson for bringing up those standards, because in my mind, the simplicity of this is, that's the history of it. Anything more than what is there, other than the necessities, in my mind is, and the word Gussie, I understand the concept behind that, but I think the simplicity of the house is the architectural importance of it and the historical importance of it. It's a house, it's a single family home. Any attempt to tie it into another property, I would not support that, or at least the design of it. The shutters in my mind are not appropriate for this particular property. The wrought iron, though it may be historical just because what they could afford at the time, but it's part of it's part of the property. And this is a contributing structure, correct?
Correct.
So I view this with a very high level of concern. So I agree with the commission, great conversation on this, where I thought this was going to be pretty straightforward. I don't see this being that straightforward anymore. And we haven't talked about the garage itself, a few comments, but the pergola that's in the concept, to my mind, is taking it to that next level of a perceived sense of history that's never been, and it's essentially going to become a pool house. It's never been a pool house, it's a garage. So that pergola, in my mind, goes beyond the standards, and I would not support that either. And there's probably some zoning things I know in the letter that we received, in the analysis, that there is some zoning conversations going on around the pool, and which is outside of our purview. But in my mind, the simplicity of this property should be maintained as best we can for the integrity of the historic district and the property.
Hey, Russ, can you go a little further with that in what your opinion is about, like on the non-street side? So like the French doors on the back of the house, or the opening up of the garage on the side under that pergola?
Yeah, the opening of the garage, I don't have as much of a concern over that. The pergola, though, in my mind, does go beyond where I think we should go. Opening up the back door for French doors, again, it's not seen from the street. Less of an issue with that, but I think, again, the concept in my mind is that this is a simple, single family home it's a contributing structure, and that should be what we measure every change against. Does it go beyond that, or is it in keeping with that? And again, I get back to what people really appreciate about the community and the historic district is that when they walk down the street, people don't notice these properties. But as soon as you significantly change it, and there's like, wait a minute, what's changed here? It's the quaintness, it's the, not every property in town was built by someone that had a lot of money or was able to make it, more than it is. And as I think in the standards, if I'm remembering correctly, it says it should represent and be kept as exactly as it's intended. A simple single family home.
Mr. Gardner, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
May I? What do you think the zoning committee's intent was when they zoned that lot C2?
Oh, I can't speak to that. It's not a zoning. I'm not talking about zoning.
Okay, but when they did, and this was square in the middle of the commercial district where you can't have a single family home, what do you feel the intent of the use of the property was?
I'm not talking about the use of the property. I'm talking about the historical appearance of the property, the exterior of the property, not the use.
Okay.
We have nothing to do with land use.
Correct.
No, I know, but the city rezoned it to C2. We've
Mhm.
pushed it back to R4. So when it was C2, what was the intent for this property? Obviously, it wasn't to be a single family home. I'm just pointing it out, and what we're doing is maintaining it in the best way possible and the highest and best use possible, given its location and given its zoning. So it has to be understood that this is not going to be somebody's single family home in the future. It be given where it is, location, the use and everything else.
Yeah, but, so let me correct that. Let me correct my comment. In my experience, it's been a single family home. I know it's changed into something else, but I'm only talking from Historic District Commission, the
Right.
appearance of the outside of it. The purpose and the use of it is out of our purview.
I realize that. What I'm trying to say is that our goal is to maintain that as much as possible while still using it for the highest and best purpose we can, considering its zoning and where it's at.
Yeah, and I wouldn't say, just to clarify, I mean, not to get too far off, I guess, into the zoning weeds, but I mean, that particular district does allow for single family dwellings as permitted uses. So that still is a permitted use. In fact, the zoning district, description is to preserve the residential flavor of the area while promoting commercial land use and development. So
In the C2 or the R4?
in the C2 Water Street East District. So.
And to be clear,
yeah.
it could be redesignated any of those things every year going back and forth. It wouldn't change the way we evaluate it in its place in the historic district.
Yeah,
There's
thank
a
you.
really good example, I think a really good example is in the historic on Butler Street, the Owl Store. Does anybody familiar with that home?
Sure.
It's about as simple as they get.
The old library.
I'm talking about the Owl Store.
Yeah, yeah.
That is
Yeah.
about as simple as, and it's a house. It looks exactly like a house, like this does, but it has a different use, commercial use.
And we would protect it either way.
right.
With our standards and guidelines, in terms
Yeah,
of changes
that
to
would be
it,
the
whether,
same
yeah.
discussion.
Yep.
So, go ahead, Laura.
So to bring this discussion back to Keith, as you opened up, as we talked about these individual components, have we satisfied these guidelines? I mean, do we need to take John's suggestion and take each one of these through that? Are we at that point in the discussion, or are we muddled on the discussion? And would that be a helpful intersection?
I would defer to Tim because he's a little more seasoned.
Okay.
I don't know about,
Well, it's just one of these things where it feels like there's a certain amount of wiggle room that we may consider giving it. And I was just reading the stark realities of the historic district guidelines. And the historic district guidelines, there's at least half of them that this is worth having a long discussion about. But I don't, it's one of these things where it says, no, but, are we gonna talk about the buts and then make decisions that
I think it can,
we can't really stand behind.
But there are components that have been brought up here that are of concern. So
Oh, yeah.
how do we reframe this? And if this gentleman wants to sit down, do we need to make him stand?
I'm fine. I can.
The only
do
thing I
50
was
feet.
suggesting of the
Thank you,
steps is to do it side by side, front, east, west, north, south, and pick it all over and say yes, no, and, or in the guidelines or not in the guidelines, because
go
we
ahead.
all got to vote, right?
So
And this is a new thing for
this is a
me.
unique one.
Yeah, it is.
But we touched on, I like going around
Yeah.
and I think starting with the back, because I've heard it expressed more than once that if you're not seeing it, and that's a significant change to this house that allows you to have the use that you want, having the pool in the garage, pool house and all that. If we can all agree on that, we can move from the back to the side for the front, for the garage.
I think we need to look at it holistically and go point by point. So that's subtle difference. So I think we could do it two ways. You could start at its current state and start adding things that we're okay with. Or we could start from the application and take away things that we're not okay with. Because I just want to acknowledge that the applicant did want to side the whole house. They understand that the brick is a key part of its contributing nature. And so they wanted to replace every window. They're not replacing every window. So the part that key thread that I think is so important is changes that can't be undone. We should be protecting those changes that can't be undone, that are contributing to the contributing nature of that structure. So are the
But there's some sides that are more
more
significant than
totally.
others that you're willing to undo.
Correct.
It sounds like there's
Well,
wiggle.
and that's
Right.
one, I'll say it for the sake of dialogue, that I'm willing to entertain those because I think every application has some degree of the applicant is doing these things to protect that structure.
Right.
But as the use changes and evolves and there's adaptive reuse,
Yep.
these changes could be considered.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a whole thing, not a
Yep.
side by side or not a elevation by elevation. Does that make sense? Not really.
Not really.
Well, pick one and let's try
Let's
it.
pick a side and go. So I'll say that, let's start with windows. That little bump out on
West side?
number 6, that little bump out is not original and the window is awful. It's an awful new window. I personally have no problem with that as long as it's a 1/1 double hung. And I would say sticking on side 6. I would not support shutters in anything but the second story double hung window that's on the frame portion. Somebody want to go to another elevation?
Let's settle on this one. So shutters are only on that upper window.
That's what I would propose as a compromise, because it feels more natural on the framed part of the structure. And it feels natural. Yeah, the brick where the 1/1 double hung gang together in 2 or 3 doesn't feel natural to
If you go
me.
back to A 2.0, you'd see it in larger scale.
So we're looking at 6, correct?
Yeah, I just started with that because that's an
Yeah,
easy one.
yeah.
So the bottom, the front, that's the original entrance side that's shuttered over on the far left. I'm-
Right.
This is the elevator. This is the.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I'm on the wrong side. Sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
Do you want a larger version maybe brought up?
Yeah.
Okay, let's 81, yeah.
No,
I would agree with
There you go.
that, Tim, but then I would wonder why we do shutters at all, even on just one window.
I had the same question.
I just think
I
that
mean,
would
my-
look a little more questionable. So I think if you take the shutters off, you take them off.
I guess I don't think that's, to me, that's in the as long as the materiality is right and they have the appearance and scale that they could shut. That's such a minimal nod,
Okay,
and that can be undone, most importantly.
Right.
So that's why it doesn't concern me, but drilling into the brick in something that's not natural or usable is not okay with me. So it just seemed harmless to me in the grand scheme of things, but
And it does expand the size of that little window up there, like visually, it's
Sure
kind of
does.
helps with the scale,
okay.
doesn't hurt it.
yeah, that's just.
I would agree with all of that.
If I could remind you too, maintenance of masonry structures is normal. It's ongoing. These don't last forever. You will re-tuck point, you will replace brick, and you will do that over the life of building, whether it's historic or not. So I wouldn't point out I'm not saying, drilling holes randomly and this is a good idea, but I wouldn't let a fastener and a piece of brick masonry sway a decision.
Do you guys want to go to 2? I mean, the same thing applies for me on the upper window as a bit of a compromise. That chimney is a big thing for me. In some creative solution that doesn't draw attention to it, but doesn't try to mask that it's new either.
And I'm assuming that fireplace is for the installation of a fireplace, correct?
Correct.
So on to then.
A masonry fireplace.
The shuttered over, you're saying the only shutters that you think would be appropriate would be the ones up above, second floor, right?
On the framing.
So now you got the left, the entrance that's been, those windows have been shuttered over. So if you, just to the right of the column, right? Those are windows that are covered.
This one.
Yeah, so those are shuttered
Yes.
because there's a bathroom there.
Correct.
And behind the faux front door is a bathroom with a double sink, which is fine. Looks like a front door. But if you're not liking those shutters, you gotta think of something else to cover them up with.
Yeah, I hadn't even gotten to that yet, but I
Okay.
agree.
Okay.
I mean, I guess to that point, another solution is to black those out and drywall behind it and leave those windows as is.
I mean, we certainly could. You know, we thought this was a bit more of an elegant, more elegant solution, but yeah.
Yeah, we did that at Lady Bird and also
Yeah,
the other
that's
house
what-
there. We've done that a number of times.
And that
We've-
passes the test of.
Yeah, we've
be
done that in
unwound.
several building situations.
That would solve the shutter problem.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't want to design the fireplace for you. I don't think that's our role, but
No, it
Uh,
certainly isn't detailed. That's a
yeah,
schematic
yeah.
at
So
best, but
probably want you to come back on that piece, but
um,
unless you want to say right now,
action that it's new.
it's pretty standard to be able to distinguish new from old. Yeah, on a contributing structure, it's, think that-
Trust me, I understand. I do. And it's very difficult in a project like this that is hosting elements from, 10 different decades worth of architectural malfeasance, to put it bluntly. You know, we don't want to make it look like it's above its station in life, but we do want to make it look like it was well-built and well-maintained. That's the goal. And shutters were a big part of that in the 19th century. I don't see, I understand probably, in the 20th century and certainly in the mid-century, people got rid of them as decoration, but I don't see how they would take away from it. But I understand if they need to go, they'll go. As far as the chimney, a house like this would almost look like it was missing something without a fireplace like this, in my opinion. If we're talking, the original structure and everything that went with it, there absolutely was a chimney and a fireplace somewhere on this thing, not the little chimney poking up out of the middle for the utilities, but an actual fireplace. So this seems like, with absent all the actual drawings, the original drawings and everything that went with it, it seems like something that would be part of the house. We could put a vent-free fireplace and not do this. It's a little misleading architecturally, but we could do that. We could put a through wall, direct vent thing. I don't think it would look as good. We could frame something around stainless steel. Probably also not look good.
I think what you're hearing us say is this is a humble little house.
Mhm.
And we understand that you want to elevate it. And I like the way you said it, like you're not trying to make it appear too far above its station. You're just trying to elevate it. But I think whatever you do with that chimney has to be sincere and humble. Like even that profile of what you just put in for FPO feels a little fussy.
Well, you know why that's there? Those shoulders on the chimney.
Yep.
You know why they're there.
Yeah, I do.
Because there's a smoke box and the smoke box goes down
Sure.
in size. And we all know that. That's actually the way the thing's built. In this rendering, it's a little high. I think it should come down lower. But yes, There is a real function for that. That's not there for decoration.
I understand how chimneys work.
Yeah.
But it's also not part of this house, so it has to match the house and work. Which is what we're suggesting. We're just asking for your suggestion of what the actual rendering might look like that you're applying for versus us approving something like that, which has no detail. materiality.
I understand, but we're saying we're going to use the same brick. We're going to have the same look. It's going to look like it was always there. And you're saying you don't want that.
That was one person's opinion. we're
Okay.
on this elevation, have a
All right.
dialogue, so other commissioners feel free to, and you guys can disagree.
I mean, if we're just jumping in, I'll say I have no problem with the chimney. I like the balance. I think a house like this would have had a chimney or should have if it didn't. And if you can match the brick exactly, which you're more the expert in that, but I know there are ways to do that. It's the brick under the shed roof there is also, somebody tried to match, right? Is that what you said earlier? Under the shed roof? Up and
No,
down?
this is the one they tried.
It's
That's
pretty,
the one
it's
that-
close.
Okay. So on this elevation where the chimney is, the brick under that window, under the dormer shed, the shed roof there. In elevation 2. Right there, yeah, is that brick?
This is all existing.
Yeah,
We're not touching. it.
okay.
I mean, we're gonna, we're gonna make.
Tuck point it.
Work better, tuck point, do whatever we need to do to the masonry, but we're not altering it.
I personally don't have a problem with the chimney, and if the brick could be matched, I think it's better to match it than to make it look purposely different.
Anybody else in elevation 2?
I get back to the original information that Commissioner Patterson read to us in this false sense of history. Again, even the elevations start to speak to me that it is becoming more than what it actually is. And the chimney, I understand the want for a fireplace. I don't know if the house ever had a fireplace. It has some vent, obviously, for heat. But to me, that does extend, it goes beyond what this history, beyond the history of this house. The simplicity of the house is, that's exactly what it is today. Can't imagine what it might have been years ago, what they intended to do or not do, but it is what we have today. And the shutters in my mind go beyond that as well.
Thank you.
I don't have a problem with the fireplace and I can tell you just the house I did in Chicago. They matched, I had to have the whole chimney rebuilt on clinker brick. And they found that you couldn't even tell it wasn't the existing. So I know it's your point of false sense of history, but I don't think it's gonna look false if it's matched as well as the two experiences I've had. So it's my opinion.
For those of you who have said something about that, does it make a difference for you? Or did you say what you said because it's on the back corner of the house? Or does it matter? So Russ, it wouldn't change for you. In other words, you're saying it's original, it wasn't intended to be this way, whether it's back in that corner or whether it's up front.
Yes.
I like the reversible thing. I mean, your comment about, we've done a couple other places like that where it looks separate from the original structure. I have no problem with that.
Well, to be clear, just because it matches doesn't mean it's not reversible.
Right. I agree with that.
Laura, did you have anything else on elevation 2?
I understand all the comments. I'm relieved to know that the brick can be matched. It looks just a little large for the house. In my mind, I don't know if it can, it looks like it's just sort of bolted on the side there. And so if the size can be adjusted to maybe, coexist with the house a little bit more appropriately, then I think that would be fine. Sounds like we've discussed the shutters pretty well. Have we made any kind of agreement on the shutters? Are you satisfied that you said if the shutters have to go, then we'll take them off? Is that where we are with the shutters? Can we conclude on that?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the committee's decision, we'd be happy to comply with
That would
that.
ultimately be part of the motion.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to check in on that and see where we were.
But there were some exceptions noted, those upper windows.
Correct.
But those could be in the
Part.
motion.
They could be in the motion, right?
All right, very good. Thank you.
So while we're on elevation 2, your renderings I don't know what page it's on, I'm sorry.
I don't know, it's towards the end. I don't
No,
know.
but the actual photos,
Again, towards the end. I
is it
think-
towards the end?
yeah.
Okay. Shows a good picture of kind of, there you go. What that would look like, if you're able to zoom in on that, sort of what the mass and scale of that chimney would look like from the street.
Right.
And I think this is also a good perspective to evaluate shutters upstairs.
Yeah, it really is.
That helps a lot.
Okay, thanks for moving that around, Sarah. Can you go back to where we were? Let's go to elevation.
Before you move
Yeah.
that there's the original chimney, I believe is gonna be removed. Is that correct, Richard? In the center, the one, there's a
Oh, that's
chase up in the middle there. Is that one staying or going?
And it's gonna remain. as far
It
as
is?
I know.
Okay.
That's brick.
I thought,
That's brick.
okay.
Oh, you're asking because it's not in the rendering.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't see it. I wasn't sure.
No, the rendering,
Okay,
they get most of it.
want to go to elevation 1 on the upper left. So columns, front door, shutters, and windows. I'm not a fan of the 2/1 ups. I'll throw that out.
And again, I get back to where the house currently is. This, I think, takes it to a next level that I don't think is appropriate for the property. From a historical standpoint.
Russ.
What's the?
The current, it's a regular aluminum screen door, I believe, right, is what's in there, and then the inside door, which is really nice, and of course, we have no purview on inside the walls. However, that particular concept in my mind goes beyond the historical. I mean, I think that does begin to go into the creating what is it, the historical, yeah, false sense of history. I mean, it's a beautiful door, don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's appropriate for this particular house.
What's the current windows at 1/1 or?
you're talking about doors and windows. What are we talking about?
I'm
He
I'm talking
mentioned
about-
windows, you went to doors, now you're.
Okay, so we're on the, so I brought up second floor windows. I'm not a fan of 2/1. I believe they should be 1/1 double hung.
And we're happy to do that.
Okay.
1/1, that's fine.
On anything that shows a 2/1 that's a replacement would be a
Right.
1/1.
Yeah, that would be good.
Correct.
And then we're on the front door, Russ, I think I'll paraphrase, pulling the original door from the inside vestibule out to the outside vestibule didn't feel appropriate to you.
Correct, thank you.
I agree
And-
with that, which is why it wasn't shown.
Okay. But you would eliminate that.
Correction, one is the proposed south elevation, is that correct? That's not, no, this isn't a south elevation.
Yeah.
This is north?
No.
No,
Russ is correct.
those,
You're
no,
correct,
I
Russ.
think the names are wrong.
Yeah. North is,
Yeah, the
Yep.
street side is actually.
so let's just refer to it as number 1.
Sorry about that.
Number
Yeah,
one.
It is facing the street, yeah, south.
error in the drawing. I missed that.
I just noticed them, I was, wait a minute, what?
I didn't have a giant problem with the aluminum screen I can't talk, screen door going away. I,
That's reversible, right? Someday if they want to put it back up, they can do that.
I mean,
We'll keep it in the basement.
I mean, anything that you take off, I hope you do.
So that'll be a faux door, blacked out.
Oh, it'll be a real door, but
Not usable.
Yeah.
not usable.
Non-functional.
right,
Yeah,
a real
okay.
slab, yes.
And then there's windows on the side, those will be blacked out as well, correct?
Correct.
So did I hear correctly, the front door is not gonna be usable anymore?
No, there's a bathroom behind it,
Right, there's a bathroom behind
that door.
here.
Yeah.
Same.
Behind the
That's the
front
other
door.
side of it.
Yeah, yeah.
You walk in, you go to the left, with the doors on the other side of this, so the bathroom is.
That whole space.
Yeah, okay.
So this door is not gonna be usable anymore, is what.
Correct.
Which
Which is why
reversible.
in
Yeah,
the,
that's reversible. It's
in the
reversible.
first instance of this, that's why we modified the front facade, but we
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
why we're.
Yeah, no,
That's good.
doing
that's a
that.
good compromise.
You said the front door or that door blacked out? Is that what you?
No, so what we're saying, we're just the glass side
the
side
side.
lights. So let's clarify. Let's clarify. So on number 1, we're talking about taking off the screen door and putting in a non-functioning door. You're currently showing it as a 6-panel door. And the side lights would be blacked out. And they would be different side lights than is there now.
Correct. The panel on the door is meant to
Correct.
relate to the side lights that are there.
Okay.
The
And-
panels on the bottom of them, yeah.
And I think we already talked about, if we entertain column replacement, that probably the only column replacement we would endorse would be a simple square column. Nothing Roman, nothing fluted,
No plinths.
no plinths.
Well, as a column, could it have it would have a capital shaft and a base. But
Yeah.
they would not be round, number one.
Right.
Could the square column be chamfered? Or is it just a square column?
I think it has to be super simple and
There's
square.
one in your
Okay.
packet that has a collar around it, but it's not chamfered.
Not cheaper.
It just has a little collar around the top, which is a little detail, but I think fitting detail.
And if you're okay with that one, that's the one we'll use.
And I thought so when I looked at all
I
of them.
find it.
It's number, I knew it a minute ago. It says non-tapered, it had a
Yep.
bunch of sizes, like,
Square non-tapered.
yeah, it has a collar around,
Yep.
third of the way down.
Square non-tapered plane.
Yes. Well, did it have the collar or not? I mean.
Yeah,
I do yeah. I
It's a
think
square non-tapered plane.
That one.
Yep.
Not even
Right.
near the top, but I think that fits with one of those sizes, it's gonna look good in there.
Okay.
In houses like this, and I'll just for a second, I've lived in a Chicago bungalow for 25 years and built all of cabinetry and the millwork in the home. These kind of homes had a shop. And typically when you had something like that column out there, you go out in the shop and you build that thing.
Mhm.
You go out and put it in. So most of the elements in something like this would look carpenter built, not shop built. And that's sort of the direction we were trying to go with anything that was on this.
Okay, let's go back to elevations and go to the last one. Thank you. I'm gonna go right under that. And let's go to the back of the house, which would be number 3. So,
Which is actually the north elevation.
correct.
Mhm.
So number 3, we're talking about the only change here is in addition to the chimney that we already talked about would be a wall of doors. Anybody have an issue?
This is what's gonna go out to the
Terrace,
terrace.
yeah, out to the yard. Correct.
You said
how
change to a wall of doors.
Well, that was my
It's just a description of.
description. Yeah.
Which open, one looks different than the rest. Is it one door that passes through?
These are fixed and this is operable.
Okay, middle one is open, okay. Okay,
So it'd be 6 panels with 2 functioning doors,
Right.
about as close as you can get.
Okay. I don't hear any major.
Mm.
Let's go to the carriage house, or sorry, the outbuilding or garage. Number 5. So,
And that's south elevation, not north.
Yep, number-
Those will be faux doors as well, non-functioning.
non-functioning, the exact same doors, so the existing material,
We are
not
going
changing.
to
out.
retain the existing material and rehabilitate it and reinstall it,
Including the
Stitching.
when the half window above.
including the half window above, correct?
Okay. No siding change on here.
No siding change, but where the alterations are made, we will salvage what we can and reuse and then replace in kind.
Okay. Number 6, and this is what would be under the pergola that we were talking about, correct?
Correct.
So this is not visible from the street.
I believe this is the west
No, that's correct. That's,
That's east.
That one's actually correct. Okay. Get myself turned around.
Is the door, I'm sorry, I forget, is the person door, original? Are you asking?
You were talking
That's
about
the man
floor-
door is not the original. No, that's a new door.
So this is the new door?
Yeah,
The floor panel? Okay. So the only entrance was these two?
There was a man door on there, but it's in, it's very deteriorated. If we had to salvage it, first of all, it's not wide enough. It's only, the door is not wide enough for what we need it to be.
okay.
Maybe,
I don't know.
if you want to, we can always pull up page,
Yeah, let's look at.
there's some photos.
I think
that-
there are photos
Scroll
in
up,
there.
Sarah, a
Yeah,
few
do that.
pages. There's some, just to show you a current.
Yeah.
There you go.
There was a door on. I'll think
It
of
would
the
have
other
had to
one.
be on the east side. Well, I don't know, maybe it was on the side.
I don't think it did.
We don't have a door.
I don't think it had. a
Yeah,
door.
that's-
I'm thinking of the one that's in the back of the house right now. So we talked about whether to salvage that one or not, the one that goes in the back door. If you scroll up to the other,
So these three sides are, okay,
Yeah.
go back up to the one that you just,
no,
one with the.
there was a door back here.
So there's no changes to number 8, and no changes to number 7. Correct?
No changes to number 8 and no changes. Well, to number 7, we would like to install new windows.
New windows. And that's on the back.
Yes, that's correct.
Actually, north.
It's not facing the street.
Yeah, we get it. Across from the garage doors.
So one, is that all the elevations, correct? One
That-
more, since we're here on 4, did we talk about, are those windows at the back new or are those original? The back of number 4?
SCW, so I think they're new.
Yes, anywhere there's a diamond, those are new.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
And the reason I pointed those out, that's where the existing entry to the back of the house is.
Gotcha.
And we're removing that, and making the entry out of elevation number 3, so facing the yard. That's what I was talking about. We had a door there.
Yes,
And
and
we're-
I see it now.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone over every elevation. One nugget to chew on is the age of the original house is the late 1800s, and it was modified the middle of the century.
Correct.
So let's call it modified and embellished, all of which is historic and contributing. I feel like what we've discussed is how do we modify it yet one more time to honor both of those chapters, not destroy them, but to continue to move it forward and let it be relevant for today. So maybe that's a lens to look through of adaptive reuse. Some things might have to go to do that, and some things might have to stay. You could argue the wrought iron supports one way or the other. But taken in totality, I think there's some things that could be done or approved, and some things that, you know, the biggest things seem to be the columns and the chimney. I'll try to paraphrase where I think y'all are.
I was taking some notes.
Okay, do you
Just
want to?
Try to attempt a motion on this. So it sounds as if the shutters were also a concern, Tim. So the proposal to potentially just install the shutters only on the windows on the top of where the frame is and not anywhere near the brick. Would that be something that we would roll into the motion?
Could be, yeah.
Okay, the square, non-tapered plane column
Yep.
instead of what's in the proposal. And ensure the brick is matched on the fireplace, but did we agree to any kind of scale reduction on that fireplace? Is that even doable? Is
Can we
that
go, can we go to the plan for a second?
Yeah.
Just to look at the fireplace.
Which one, I'm sorry?
It's that A 1.0. If we go to the plan though,
A 1.0. So it's gonna be
1.0, so keep going.
Up,
Right.
yep. It'd be 77. No, 81.
Mhm.
Yeah, scroll up. Yep.
Down, right there.
Right, that's
Go
right.
up just there.
Yep.
The other one. So there, we don't have a detail in here yet, but the way the firebox sits directly over the foundations, the way the fireplace is meant to sit in a wood frame, structure. You know, the size of the firebox kind of dictates the width of this thing. We're not making it any wider than we have to, but if we want to reduce the size of the firebox to accommodate an aesthetic on the outside, I think we're happy doing that.
Laura, weren't you talking about height? Or are you
Yeah,
talking about width?
Are you talking about
Again,
height?
I
Or-
think I am talking about height and a little bit of width, because again, it looks like it just was sort of bolted onto the side of the house.
The height is dictated by code.
So the height stays, but, you know, if that all meets code and that's the way it has to exist, you know, just relieve that the brick will match, but.
Yeah.
Again, I guess that was just my concern, but that's not shared, then,
We can certainly minimize the size of the structure as much as possible
okay.
and still comply with code.
So one thing for consideration, Sarah, if you could go to page 82. And zoom in on context photo 1.
Right.
I mean, to keep us moving forward, one thing I might suggest is this is a cacophony of windows back here.
Yeah.
So you have the casement, which you're not replacing, the little double hung that was added at some point, and then the windows behind the tree. So I sort of would argue that approving the chimney and doing the windows on each side in the appropriate opening size would clean up this size and make it more consistent without causing harm. I would rather leave the final, like say we're putting a chimney in the approval, but coming back either with, I think it probably needs to come back and not be staff approved, but come back with style and material. But the idea of a chimney in that space of the right style and material gets you at least to so you can keep planning. But I think that is actually the lesser of the evils from what's happening in that little trio of openings.
Oh, I agree. It's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess.
And
I,
I also, I think sometimes that can be charming. I'm not sure that's charming in the humbleness of this. I think the charm is all from that casement window forward. So I don't know how y'all feel about that in emotion, but I'm less concerned about the chimney, more concerned about that part of the elevation being harmonized and more concerned about what the final choice of the chimney is.
Are we hearing that you're able to match the brick? So that's established?
yes, that I can say with certainty.
Okay,
That can be in the motion too.
great.
I'm only one voice on that, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm what's been said about that material, because I've heard different things tonight, so that's good.
Tim, can you summarize the windows like one more time? Because
You made a comment about the, I think it was the upper windows you had.
Well, and all your renderings in the new windows are 2/1 upstairs, which I think we've established need to be just double hung, 1/1.
but what about the rest?
And then the new windows on either side of the chimney, you have as 3/1. It looks like to match the other 3/1.
Correct.
I don't really have a problem with that. I mean, normally, like, this is where the era of the update of this house breaks the rule that we usually see, because usually 3/1 is reserved for porches. And then the rest of the house has 1/1 or some other window structure. It's everywhere in this house. So I think to me, like, that's fine. that's what you want on the first floor. But I think on the second floor, since we see a 1/1 there, that's not okay with me. And that's, to me, that's another one of those things that pulls away from the humbleness is when you start putting a window structure above in that framed area.
Hmm.
That feels a little fancier than it did. But I think if all that were in a motion, I think you're getting pretty close to what you'd like. Functionally in a room with a fireplace, walking out the back in an open, having the garage sort of be turned into usable space with its function on the side. We haven't talked about the pergola. Having the functional part of the front behind the front door, columns, and a few shutters.
We scroll down to the rendering of the, it's hard to see. We have one of that. It was just the other things, we're not mentioning that, but this guy here. I don't know if we can go down one.
Scroll up a little bit. Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, these are the 3/1, 3/1.
Right.
And then the trees are in the way. But it's trying to harmonize that elevation just a little bit because it is a mess and trying to make that make sense.
Now that I look at this, is the fence that's there coming out, or you just have it out for this concept?
We just have it out so you can
Okay.
see the concept. The fence remains.
That's a good call. Russ, to your point about the pergola, like for me, it's the same conversation as the front supports. I mean, I don't have a problem with a pergola being attached to this myself. I have a problem that it feels a little too Hamptons and not humble. So maybe there's a way to do those columns on the pergola to sort of make it feel a little more in keeping with versus looking like.
Is that your shop built, kind of?
It's exactly shop built. That's, I mean, it's, we in several places put in pergolas. Okay, the columns purchased, I get it, but everything else is shop built.
Right. But I mean, Tim, are you saying with square columns, it takes it down a notch?
I think it would, yeah.
Oh, we would use the same ones
Same
that's on
with
the
the front.
front.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I assumed we were talking.
Right.
No. I'm just calling it out because it needs to be called out. Otherwise, it could be built the way this is. Which
Yeah, so if we assume the same,
words in your mouth, Russ, but I think that's probably part of your challenge with the
Mhm.
pergola.
Yeah, and again, just thinking back to what the property is, it's a single family home, that was a garage, and a pergola in a garage seems to me to stretch the boundaries of this property.
I think
Even,
yeah.
I'm sorry, even with the change in the pillars, it just doesn't seem, it stretches it.
so what if the pergola was freestanding next to the garage? Four columns.
That gets into a whole, that's another conversation, I think more from a zoning standpoint in terms of whether that's actually allowed. Again, I just, the pergola just doesn't.
Well, back to it, it could be undone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It can be undone.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's less imposing than if it were freestanding. It would feel like another structure versus. I understand what you're saying too, Russ, about single family home and it's not that anymore, but I think the ship has sailed on its use. But I don't think it would have to sail on this garage's use in the future. You could take this off and turn it back into a garage pretty easily. But the columns would have to match for me.
Right. Yeah, no question.
Did we cover everything?
So,
Would someone like to make a motion?
are you really gonna attempt it,
Good
Laura?
Lord.
You get a medal with it.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll help you.
Thank you for your patience and
No, thank you for your consideration.
standing up the whole time. I think that's.
About patience, these guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say, talk about.
Feels like I just wanted to.
This is gonna be.
Have to be.
It's worn off now. This is not happy hour.
I just want to review the applicant's request before I write this motion, but Ryan, you've got like a 2-sentence motion on this that encompasses everything. So let's see if we can break it down. I move to support the application with the following recommendations. That the installation of the shutters will only be on the top windows where the framing exists. That the square, non-tapered plain columns will replace the renderings of the round columns on both the front door and the pergola. That the fireplace will mimic the brick on the rest of the building. What am I missing?
Windows.
It's windows,
Tell me what you're,
replacement windows. We haven't talked about materiality. I think you have a spec in there of an Anderson,
Be 1/1.
Yeah.
instead.
Yes.
be 1/1 double hung
okay,
above and 3/1 below,
okay,
where windows are being asked to be replaced.
okay. Where windows are being asked to be replaced, that the windows be double above and 3/1 below. Is that specified correctly?
Be double hung 1/1 above
Okay,
and 3/1 double
Alright.
hung below.
double hung below, right, okay. So,
Can I add one more thing?
please
I
do.
believe we also wanted to add in there that where the shutters are covering the bathroom window.
Yep.
The windows would be installed in there that would be blacked out. So I don't know how you want to say that, but.
Well, we would maintain the existing windows,
Oh, and just, okay.
rehabilitate them, and then
Does that need to be in the motion?
No,
Is that
it's
part?
already on the.
It's already in the application.
Move the okay, I thought there was.
Okay.
just remove the shutters.
Yeah, just the shutters go.
Yeah.
Okay. Then
Okay,
you can make it simple.
And did you get the front door?
I'm sorry, sir.
Front door?
Did not get the front door.
The front door would be replace front door with 6-panel non-operative door. We need the spec on that. If you didn't already give that to us, that would need to be a wood door.
It would be, and it's a custom millwork item, so there's
Okay.
no spec on it.
And with,
There's no product spec, I should say. There's performance spec we could provide.
with light on each side of the door. Panel below. As rendered,
Sorry, say that again, the side lights?
side lights.
We're using the existing.
Oh, you're
again.
using existing. Okay,
Yes.
good.
So the door's gonna match those?
Yes,
Yes.
we're reusing the existing elements, the frame, the jamb, side lights. We're simply creating the slab to infill the opening.
Nice.
And then
Got that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
why don't we, well, let's second and then we'll discuss and keep adding. Is that okay?
I think I have most of the components that have been
I think
discussed.
there might be a few more we might want to add, but
Okay.
let's second.
Break it into two?
Well, no, we can add to, we can keep going. So noting that the garage maintains the existing fabric and move to fix. Did you already say that?
I was just about to,
Okay,
because I
good.
had that. Also, Sarah, that the garage will maintain its existing fabric and the doors will be, I think, maintained, is a sort of
We're-
finished.
We're going to retain as much of the original construction as possible and rehabilitate.
Right. Okay, and rehabilitate the garage doors, which I think is great,
Yeah,
Okay.
as rendered.
as rendered.
As rendered.
Very good.
Yes.
Okay,
And also on the garage that the windows that are being added are 1/1 double hung.
Right.
Door is a wood 4-panel door
Mhm.
and French doors,
I'm sorry, what was the last thing?
wood, 4-panel wood door. And that the French doors look like full light French doors, correct?
Correct.
And that the doors on the back of the house, we haven't discussed, we didn't discuss rather, in terms of their profile. It looks like they're,
Ubiquitous French door.
but
It's,
simulated divided light, 3x6.
3x6, I believe. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know if we look at the image again.
And I'll also add that all windows are simulated divided light, or true divided light. So we have simulated divided light here as an
Yes.
example. Okay.
That goes with the doors on the back of the house.
It goes with everything actually, but yeah,
Oh,
I think that's it.
These are 3x5 on our rendering, the French doors.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion?
Not discussion, but is it possible to have this read back, the motion? There's a lot that we threw at Sarah on this.
Yeah,
Should be ready.
yeah. We're putting you on the spot, Sarah.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Motion by Godfrey, second by Patterson, installation of shutters on the top story, square, non-ground columns, front and pergola.
Mhm.
Fireplace brick will match existing. 1/1 double hung on the second story. 3/1 double hung below on the first story. The windows are asked to be replaced. Shutters covering the bathroom window, will be blacked out and
Shutters removed.
remove the shutters, sorry, there we go.
It's okay.
And then replace front door, 6 panel with a non-operational door. Need the spec sheet, needs to be wood. Doors on back of the house, similar divided, light 3x5. And then all windows similarly divided, and I missed the very end of it.
And on the garage, everything is 1/1 double hung, or the doors are full light French doors.
Got that.
Could I ask, the front door, wood 6-panel, as rendered?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be
Okay.
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
And one
Uh,
other correction, just small, is you said fireplace, it's chimney. I think that was the intent.
Sorry.
yep.
Yeah.
No, that was good. You got a lot for knowing that you usually listen to the recording to get all that. You got it.
Well, the other thing was that the chimney, be as diminutive as possible.
That's right. Thank you.
It's what, I'm sorry.
Diminutive.
Mhm.
Is there any more discussion?
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you for assembling that.
Chair, did
All
you
right.
have-
All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming back.
Thank you, everyone.
Good luck with the project.
Fine, we're all good.
Now you can go to films.
Yeah, go for the rest of the happy hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Save us a table. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so 215 Butler Street. Yes, sorry, I had two Butlers there. Replace the front door entry and screening fence along the side deck. Come on up. Is there anything,
Mike.
is there anything that's not in the packet that you want us to know about? We've all looked at it. Anything you want to add?
I don't believe so. Put the pictures up there.
Anyway, yeah, the proposal is to replace the front door first and foremost. Well, okay, we can start here. Why not? This is suggested by somebody on the district, historic district, to remove this upper section, ball tops, the lattice work, which leaves us at approximately 4 foot tall. Our plan is to basically remove or no, I'm sorry, not to remove this wood, but to replace or just go over top of it with a lap siding that matches the building, which is rough on cedar. And, you know, wrap the posts and basically just make it look like it's a cedar fixture, approximately 4 feet tall. That's probably within an inch or so. No ball tops on top of it anymore. And then stain it to either match the building or to put a clear coat spar varnish in it. And then replace the handrail. That was, yeah, so there you can see the building with the lap siding. So that's what that will look like when it's finished. And then we'll cover the bottom also and
Okay,
make it look pretty again. So that was the small part of it. The front door is the major issue. The door has gone through some major changes over the years. It used to swing inward, I guess, until there was a complaint from a customer. The fire inspector had asked us to reverse the swing as an outswing for fire reasons. But because the door wasn't replaced, it had to be taken out of its existing opening, cut down, what made into the outswing door. And unfortunately, with that happening, it catches the north winds and the west winds. And during the winter or even summertime winds that kick up, that door can get slammed open against the brick. And it has destroyed, yeah, that was the existing latches as it swung inward. You know, there's several videos or pictures. You know, the jamb is getting to be a wreck. I've replaced this door, what you can see here. This is from just the last time. I haven't even had a chance to repair it yet. But I've replaced this or glued this door back together. I believe it's been 6 times in the last 6 years from all of this wind. It's got the closer on it, which helps it from slamming completely wide, but it has ripped the closer off of the upper jamb. There you can see that's the outside. Yeah, that it's looking terrible. And there's only so many times I can fill this door with toothpicks and glue. And there you can see that's just the weather stripping that was put up there after it was replaced or after the swing was changed. The old hinges are still there, mortised. But the new door that we would like to put in will look exactly like this one, except with a nice stained, you know, dark mahogany finish. The jamb will also be all brand new. The brick opening will not change at all. So everything between the brick will be all mahogany. The door will be the same thing, about 3/4 glass with panel bottom. Obviously the handle set will be on this side now, so it'll swing outward as it's supposed to. And it'll seal again. The sill right now, you know, that was made for an in-swing door originally. Right now, there's a gap of about a 1/2 inch underneath the door. There's been a sweep put on the door, which, you know, doesn't hold up well. I've replaced that twice. And now, right, you know, when it's not being used, there's like a sock or sand or whatever that's just down there to try to keep it dry.
$4 at Menards. Right?
Anyway,
got it.
yeah, like the handle set itself, you know, that's not even functional. The only thing that is functional right now is the thumb piece, but the deadbolt's not functional. This is a template or one that was put on there who knows how long ago, but it doesn't match the door. You know, it's just in dire need of being replaced.
Okay, I think we got it. Thank you.
You're
John,
very
do you want to make a mention that I think Phil approached you about this
Yeah,
for the record?
yeah. Yep, as I was walking by and I, you know, he asked my opinion and I told him professionally my opinion, not that,
Not as a commissioner.
not as a commissioner.
Um,
So that door was, if I can just,
Yep.
that door was.
You have to
fine
jump up there.
For how many ever years since 19? I think it was the Bomley Steakhouse back in 1948. And that door was fine for that number of years until the fire inspector approached me one day and said, well, you need to change that door. And I think that was 2011 or 2012. And I thought she was joking at first, and then I found out real quick she was serious. Once that door got switched around, that's when all the stuff started happening, and obviously opening it up to where a north wind could catch it was not the most brilliant thing to do, but that was the quick fix. So I didn't get my occupancy reduced in half. Because I got threatened if I didn't do it soon enough. That, anyway, we don't need to air dirty laundry. Bottom line is, this is the point we're at now. It's become kind of an OCD thing to me where I can't even look at the front door anymore at this point. And what we're trying to do is put something a lot nicer looking there, more appealing to the building, and hopefully, that'll draw more customers in.
Thank you.
So,
You don't need that, do you?
so Phil, so that door's original?
It's probably even before it was the Bomley Steakhouse back in like.
Wow. Because I was trying to remember as we're talking about this, this was my very first job, was working, not when it was Phil's, it was the Embassy Bar and Grill. I walked through that door, I don't know how many times going to work. And I'm trying, is it the same door? The same? Yeah, the same door. And I fully support this replacement. The thing I would just maybe suggest, and I don't know if it's possible, is that because you've done like with the waterworks side and side, this door's got some cultural value to some people, right? And so I don't know if there's, anyway, hopefully it doesn't disappear completely. Hopefully you find a way to. Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's cool. I'd like to be able to just touch it or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so.
Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, clearly you need a new door.
I'm afraid one day the wind's gonna catch it, the glass.
Right.
Yeah.
Even for then, we're gonna have a sheet of plywood.
Right, no, I think it's well established that you need a new door. So, I don't have any real issue with getting a new door. Will you have the same issue when it opens with the wind then? How will you solve that? You're going
It's
around.
gonna swing the opposite.
You're gonna go the other way. Okay.
It's gonna swing to the door as opposed to opening. So I equate it with, it opens to the sandbar now. And it wants to go to the sandbar every time it opens.
Right.
That's literally why in the wintertime.
Can you
You
come up
gotta
here?
go,
I'm sorry,
sorry.
we're recording, so yeah.
Gotta
thank
speak
you.
into
Yeah.
that.
That's one of the main reasons why in the wintertime, we changed the entrance
Yeah.
to where you come through the deck. Because then we don't have to worry about the door opening and closing and relying on that person coming through the door to hold it. If all of a sudden we get a 20-mile-an-hour gust out of the north. And plus it helps with the heating bill as well.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I have no issue. Clearly you need a new door and hopefully you can proceed with that. No issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Will.
I don't have an issue, just a question, when you replace the same door, do we have a spec with that when they're gonna do the same door, or just, that's it? Okay. And this is the first meeting I've been in that someone actually wanted to lower the height of a fence,
There
so fine.
That's right.
you go. Anything else? Thank you. Keith,
No questions.
John?
Same size glass on the new door? And then
Very close to.
very similar. And,
I
okay,
believe this is almost a 7.
That's
I
a,
believe it's a 7-foot door, and being 3/4 glass, you're probably looking at about a 65-inch piece of glass in there, 60.
Shooting for the same thing though.
Yeah, the application says,
You would probably think it's the same door.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just,
the application says same size door as existing, solid mahogany with V-frame, 3/4 glass as shown, reverse swing, still out swing,
Okay.
deep
Okay.
stain haze mahogany.
And did I miss the hardware? Do you have hardware picked out for that?
yes, it's Rocky Mountain hardware. It's a cast hardware. It's heavier duty than this. It's
Same idea with the back plate and the thumb or,
yeah, there will be no thumb piece. It will be solely being held with a commercial closer. And then it'll have an integrated deadbolt to lock it at night. But this way, there's no, we figured this way, there's less obstruction in case there were a fire.
yeah, right.
And, you know, this way it can just be pushed open and the door will shut on its own, more powerfully than this one.
Great. Anything else?
No.
And thank you for cleaning up the enclosure, lowering it, siding it. It just makes it go away. I think that is successful. Do I have a motion?
Oh, I'll do, this is an easy one. I was gonna touch the one you did with the tentacle. Motion to approve the replacement of the front door in a style consistent with the existing door and to modify the screening fence in accordance with the plans and details submitted.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed? Thank you. Thanks for your patience.
Thank
Thank you for sitting here.
Yeah, it's right.
Next item is 202
Thanks, guys.
Butler. Thanks. Bye. 202 Butler, expanded outdoor seating on the sidewalks.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the applicant, unfortunately, wasn't able to attend tonight. He tried to see if some staff members were available, but they weren't with the schedule. So he's indicated, obviously if there aren't any concerns or questions, and obviously you would ask for your approval. If there are questions or concerns, he would ask that you postpone this to your next meeting.
I think the only question would be there's no drawings, so they're just asking to put tables there. There's no barrier.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yep. Only need the barrier for the street.
Got it.
Yep.
Is
Okay.
it different than what they've done in the past?
No.
That was my question too.
Nope.
I mean, maybe
No,
we can just approve it then.
Yeah.
We've,
Yeah, well, yeah, I think maybe it sounds like they're just sort of following the letter of the law, and whether they did or not before, it's,
This is one of those similar cases to where there was kind of temporary approvals given for more tables during COVID, and they need, zoning and approval and frankly, historic district approval as well. So.
Okay.
But they've indicated that, yeah, in the kind of site plan that what page it is here, that would be the same setup that they've used the last 3 or 4 years.
Have they not already set this up?
I think,
Well, that is a particular issue, yes, that they did. It's kind of an unfortunate circumstance where the previous owners were aware of kind of the need to go through this process, when we kind of discussed this with the restaurant several months ago. There's been a change of ownership that occurred, and current owners weren't quite aware of everything, and so we're working through this process with them. The tables that are actually right against the building, I haven't seen a survey, but it appears that they're probably more on their property, but then there's some additional tables between the main sidewalk and the street that for sure are in the public right of way as well. So either way, I mean, our ordinances would require that the tables and chairs be removed.
okay. Someone like to make a motion on this, or is there any more dialogue?
I'll do it then. I move to approve the outdoor dining areas in accordance with the plans, materials, and details submitted with application for 202 Butler Street.
Thank you. Is there a second?
second.
Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Opposed? Okay. Next item is a resolution of, in support of House Bill 5430 for the expansion of the, historic preservation tax credits. Everyone have a chance to read that resolution? And, if we're supportive of that, would someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll do it. I move to support the resolution in support of House Bill 5430 for the expansion of Michigan State Historic Preservation Tax Credits established under Public Act 343 of 2020.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Thank you. We are supportive. And the next item is rescheduling our July 4th meeting.
Yes, Mr. Chair, yeah, your next meeting falls on a holiday that I'm guessing many of you may not be available on for a meeting, and so wanted to raise the issue, or actually your deputy clerk was on it and raised the issue, so I appreciate her noting that, and ask the commission when you'd like to reschedule your meeting.
Do y'all want to do the 27th the week before, or the 11th the week after?
I'd go for the 11th.
11th?
Please.
Yep. And I'm going to be here on the 4th of July and there's no fireworks. I'm more than
That's
happy to.
true, yeah. So the 11th, there is a zoning board of appeals meeting scheduled. I don't know if we'll have any cases for that. They start at 7. So, I mean, there could potentially be a conflict with that evening if you were to have a lot of cases that, you know, I think this is the longest meeting that you've had. You had a pretty meaty agenda tonight. Normally but you never know, right?
So could we say that we will go with the 11th, but if the ZBA gets cases, we will move it to the 27th? We could just have a backup, just
Sure.
have a,
I think that's a good plan.
we'll plan on the
Yeah,
11th.
we'll
and we have to
know-
Change it, we'll.
Or just set a date that we know won't have a conflict.
It doesn't have to be on a Thursday. I mean, I suppose we can do it.
Yeah.
I don't know your broader,
First 3 Thursdays are taken.
and what about Wednesdays?
Every other is workshop.
Council workshop, yeah.
So is the 10th a workshop?
10th is not, 10th is open.
Okay. Let's do
Would you
that.
guys do that?
10th oh, July.
that
excuse me,
works.
I'll look at the
Do,
wrong
A
one.
conflict, that's
Absolutely.
good.
Yep.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion? I guess we need a motion, right?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to move the July 4th meeting to Wednesday, July 10th at 6 p.m.
Thank
I'll
you. Do I have a
second it.
Second, thank you. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? All right. I'm putting it on the calendar. Anything on administrative approvals you want to mention, Ryan?
No, Mr. Chair, other than I know, certainly the commission's asked about, you know, the mural and its removal, that the owner reached out. And the days are blending together. I don't remember if it was end of last week or early this week, but and indicated that they, you know, found a product that they think will, you know, be able to remove the mural without impact or very, very minimal impact to the brick and the mortar, and that they're going to get started on that work.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I appreciate the applicant following through on that. It's great.
I looked at it, it looks pretty good.
Good.
The part that he did remove.
Is there any communication? Any public comments? No one left. Any commission comments? Not, do I have a motion? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I would just, do we want to mention the appeal that's been filed? Everybody's not aware of it.
Yeah, we certainly can. I did send an email to all of you commissioners notifying you that there was a claim of appeal filed by the Maplewood Hotel, appealing your reapproval of the additional features at the Village Square Playground. So we met with city council yesterday in a closed session to kind of discuss next steps, and not a whole lot to add at this point. If you have any questions, you know, that you want to meet with me on, I'm happy to meet with any of you on that.
Thank you.
Is there any requirement of any of us to be involved in that process?
Nope, not at this point. It's kind of a situation where a claim of appeal is based on kind of a closed record. So the record's already been created in the sense that the Maplewood Hotel is preparing a transcript actually of your meeting based on the video, and then certainly you approved your minutes tonight. So at this point, that is the record, and your meeting packet from that, letters, all those sorts of things that you reviewed is what the court will view and what the case will be briefed on.
And where is that meeting? Where are those meetings held?
So this is in the circuit court, so certainly we can let you know. Initially, there will be some briefs involved. Once we have a court date, or the judge will actually have a hearing on the briefs and make well, at least hear the case and then decide whether he was going to, rule from the bench or potentially issue a written order. We can let you know when that hearing's going to be. Welcome to attend. They're public, so.
Okay.
Yep.
And so to that point, to clarify, it's not like a commission meeting, correct? It's a circuit court meeting.
Correct. This is a meeting where they have an attorney, we have our attorneys. Each case will have made their, filed briefs with the court explaining our positions. And ultimately the judge will then, make a decision.
I've only been involved in a couple of those, but one of them had public comments, but the other one didn't.
Hmm.
Is there public comments in this? I'm just trying to prepare.
No, not that I'm aware. Like I said, it's a closed record, so there's not like
Got it.
new evidence that's or comments that would be considered in
All
this
about
case.
what happened prior to this, not about any new comments that are happening in that meeting. Thank you. Okay,
No new evidence, that's key. Mhm.
someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I will second. Oh, I'll let John have
You
it.
get to make it easy one.
Get
since
to
you made it.
make-
I'll let John have it.
All in favor signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank
you, Tim.
I'm gonna look at
August
that
1.
Becken house far differently.
What's that?
The Becken house has changed perspective on me completely.